Hey everybody, here's a video of the Chapter 16 Wiley assignment to get you through it. This one isn't too bad, and it's for the most part it's really good practice. There is one question, I think the second last one, that is probably going to give you some grief and that I'll spend a little time on, so might be worth your while to listen to it once or twice. So here goes. Basically we have a bunch of transactions and they want the journal entries for it. So this first one, it's IFRS, and there is, there's warrants attached. So again, it's evaluating the bond versus the value of the warrants. The warrants get the residual, so you value the bond, and whatever's left over is the warrants, and that goes to contributed surplus, and we'll go over a few examples in class of that. That's a pretty standard entry, and something you're probably going to see on the exam. Number two is now ASPE. So the first part of it, option one, is exactly the same. You value the bonds and the rest goes to the conversion option. And watch contributed surplus, when you book to that account, it always has a descriptor after it. So, in the first one, I think it's contributed surplus warrants, or maybe it says stock warrants. In this one, it would be contributed surplus conversion option. And in value two, or option two, is you just assume the contributed surplus to zero, so whatever funds you raise goes to a bond. So relatively straightforward. This one's exactly the same. Again, it's warrants instead of conversion feature, but the accounting is exactly the same. This is where things get a little ugly. So we've called our bonds for conversion. Excuse me, I think I'm going to sneeze. Okay. But I'm not going to start the video over again. So we converted some bonds into shares. So the bonds go away and shares are created. And for the most part, we use the book value approach. So the shares are going to get created at whatever the sum is of all the entries we have to do to get rid of them. $75,000 unamortized discount applicable to the bonds. So you might have different numbers in your questions, but it's an unamortized discount, so just subtract it from the face value of the bonds, and that's what's in your bond account. So in this example, there are 10 million of bonds, 75,000 of unamortized discount, so I would have a bond book value of 9,925,000. And that's the debit I'm going to have to book to bonds payable to make that account go away. There is not a separate discount account. We paid an additional $70,000 to the bondholders to induce conversion. So that is cash out. And for IFRS, it's recorded as a loss. I can't remember, loss on redemption of bond or loss on conversion of bond. That is not something I'm going to ask you on an exam. We're not going to get into redemptions with payments. Balance and contributed surplus accounts 270, that needs to go away, so you need to debit it. And the fair value is irrelevant for IFRS, sorry. For ASPE, you actually have to record the same loss account, but instead of 70,000, you allocate part of it, and the other part of it goes to retained earnings. Again, I will not test you on this, but it's a concept that's part of the chapter and that we do need to cover. And what I would recommend here is go to page 1628, and there is example 16.15 in the middle of the page, and just follow it and do exactly the same steps with your amounts and you should be fine. So page 1628, example 1615 will get you part B of this question. And this one again is pretty straightforward. It's an issue with warrants, and that's it. So again, it's this one, ASPE one. The conversion is a little tricky. I think I basically gave you the journal entries for A and told you where to go for B to just follow the steps. And again, don't worry about conversions. Conversions we might have on the exam, but I won't have premiums where you're paying a fee and you have to either record an expense or allocate it between an expense and retained earnings. Again, on these things, don't waste a ton of time on it. If you're having grief, send me a message. I might not get back to you until the next day, but hopefully I can save some time. Thanks all.